Hi, and welcome to Tiny Hands, Big Dreams. So today we have a bit about electric fences. As you can see, I got pigs here, and they're hemmed in by an electric fence. Now, an electric fence is a useful thing. I will be. You can talk when it's your time. Yeah. Are a useful thing. They're movable. They're economical to set up. They can cover a lot of terrain. They're not a they don't well they can be permanent, they can also be temporary, and we use them as a temporary structure. We have crazy terrain, we have a ton of stumps and trees and roots, and to try to dig in a traditional fence would be absolutely just a ton of work and economically unfeasible. Now we use the pigs to actually clear a chunk of land. They'll root out the stumps, the bugs, the things, and they'll leave it ready for something new, and we kind of use them that way. So there's some things to think about when you do an electric fence. Now there's the material you use for the wire. Now on this fence, which is the third or fourth use, the center is a ribbon, and the ribbon is neat because the ribbon is flat and it has multiple strands of wire inside the ribbon. The pigs can see that. It's wide. They don't have great eyesight. Other animals do a little better. There's a string that you can get that just looks like a spiral wound string that has wire in it. That's pretty common. It's cheaper. The ribbon is the most expensive, but for pigs, you have to have something at eye level they can see. Now, for economy reasons, we went with just a cheap galvanized general purpose piece of steel wire. It's $1 a pound is the way they sell it. And we did the bottom and the top runs with that. Now, the pigs can't really see that, but they'll get close and they'll see the ribbon. If they don't see the ribbon and they bounce into it, one of those is going to touch them. So this is the positive side of the circuit. Now there's also, some people talk about running a circuit to where you have two hots, top and bottom, and a ground in the middle. So you can run a very long distance with very good conduction, and the animal then has to touch two wires, or possibly the ground and a wire. But the ground has a resistance to it. So we run a small area. I don't think our combined area ever gets bigger than about an acre. So this works for us just to run 3 hots. Now we have ground stakes, which are just standard general purpose house grounding stakes. They're copper. You can get them from 3 to 8 feet long. And the recommendation, depending on where you are, and there's actual recommendations, some places require 3 of them at 30-foot intervals. And you just take the ground out of the box and you go 1, 2, 3. Now those all have to be away from your house. You don't want to ground that circuit close to your house circuit because it is a different voltage. There can be interference. And our original system was actually I'd put the grounds in too close. And we had a little bit of a backfeed. So we ran a wire, an aerial pair of wires, and I just put them up. Remember, this is temporary. I'm not putting underground cabling in. I'm not putting in conduit. We're not trenching. So I tied string to trees, and then we aerial a cable with actually, it's just standard 110 volt wire. It does okay as long as it doesn't touch anything. And that's where I use the plastic string to tie it to trees to give it a safe path. And then we drop it down. Hot touches to the wires, touched all 3. Ground goes to the stakes. Now the stakes I haven't moved from the last instance, and the last instance is 200 feet that way. So that ground is 200 feet that way, and that ground carries all the way to the far side of this enclosure, and it still works. You may be able to hear it clicking behind me. And what that is that's a piece of stick, several sticks that the pig has kicked up on the fence. It drains the spark a bit. If you get too many of them, the power comes down and they nose it, and it's only a tickle. You got to check the fence every so often. This is one of the downsides of a fence. Now, all of our pigs are trained to the electric fence. It works out pretty well. New pigs will bolt through it. If you can hear that, it only shocks every second and a half, 2 seconds, something like that. So the problem is they get into it and they'll push through it. If it shocks them behind the ears, they will just keep going. They'll just bolt. So to train a pig, we usually start them in a small corral. We put up a hard fence, something they cannot just bust through. It helps to do it when they're smaller. Wilby could go through the side of a brick wall if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He's a very sweet pig. We've raised him from very small. He's very gentle. He's the boar, and to have a boar that you can handle that easily is actually really nice. So you start with a hard fence that they can't just barrel through. You put the electric fence a foot inside of that. Hi, Will. Hi. 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 Some scratches? Always up to give your pig scratches. Keeps them friendly. All right. I'll tell you what. If you let me do this, I'll give you a banana. Can we do a banana deal? Okay. All right. There you go. So you start them off in a small pen with the electric fence inside. They touch it. They can't go any further. They learn that hurts. Now they have to see it, which is, again, the ribbon is good for that. No, I have no more banana. Empty hands. I'm all gone. Okay. 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 And that trains them, and then we can put them out, and that works. The little ones we have much the same, and I'll show you some of them. They learned early on that the fence hurt. They just ran back to mama, so they always run back, which kind of automatically trained them. Now, when we moved areas, we had an issue where it became nighttime, and they were in a new area, and they got a little worried, so they ran home, hit the fence. Remember that shock is a second and a half, 2 seconds apart, and then got halfway through it before they got shocked, and then just kept going, ran into their old area. We had to chase them around. Sometimes things don't go smoothly. I spent an hour running through the old mucky pig area, chasing the pigs with the stick, trying to chase them back into the new area. Now they're incredibly pleased now that they're here. Their stress is different. They're happy. They're rolling around. They're playing. They're jumping in circles. Their mother is much more stressed. Like they did want to be here, but it takes a bit of convincing sometimes. They're a bit of creatures of habit. Now, things on electric fence. So I'll show you the box. This is a typical charging box. It has the two outputs. One of these goes to a ground that is, again, far away from your house. The other is your hot wire. Be careful of that. This unit is 10,000. They differ. I also have another unit. Well, this is before I finish, this is a plug-in unit. That is the most common. It runs whenever you have current from your house, your 110 circuit. It doesn't use very much. You'll never notice on your electric bill, but it means you have to be tethered to somewhere where there is power, and that can be a challenge. Now, they make a 12-volt version of this same box. That's not the one that we could get locally in a hurry. Now, we have this other unit, which is a small, kind of an all-in-one battery-powered unit. Now, this will run off internal D batteries, or it'll run off a car battery. And a car battery will run it for a couple of months, which is great. So you set it somewhere. It comes with its own ground stake. It just sticks in the ground. It clips onto the fence. You can clip it to itself, or you can clip it to a better grounding circuit, and you're good to go. That's it. It's on. The controls, it's all self-contained. It's waterproof. Actually does pretty well. It is a much lower power. Now, when you get into the powers of electric fences, they're rated in a thing called joules. The lower one is 10 times, the portable one is like 10 times less powerful. It will contain pigs, mostly, but you get a couple of pieces of grass and something on it, and all of a sudden there's just really not a lot of shock, and they just sort of go through it because on a dry day, there's not the conduction of their feet to the earth. They're not getting shocked. They just sort of wander out. We had to switch it up because we were just having issues with that. So we got the larger unit, and the larger unit is much more powerful. It also works when there is a dry ground, which is a high resistance. If there's been a ton of rain and the ground is moist, boy, the fence hits, it really hurts. but that's one of those, you have to have it on the best day hurt really bad for on the worst day to still be enough of a discouragement. There's a lot of units out there. I like them both. We occasionally still use the portable one. It's a good backup to have. If the other one quit, I would immediately just plug on the portable. The pigs are trained to the fence. We've turned it off. We've forgotten about it for a day. And the pigs were still in. Now, eventually, they're going to nose it again, and they're going to start to... they're going to test it. They're going to push dirt up next to it and realize, then they're going to kind of nose under it a little further and tunnel and things, and eventually they're going to get out again. Just given their slow, methodical, kind of curious nature. If it's not working, they will. But otherwise, I can turn it off right now, and everybody will just stay where they're supposed to be. They're trained. They're smart creatures. A lot of people use them for cattle. For cattle, they'll just do a single line about 3 foot off the ground. Now, let me show you the insulators. Yes, we'll be high. Can you let me do the video? All right, I have no more bananas. I give you scratches. You're a giant oafing pig. All right. Okay, so what we use is some Mangaro, which is a piece of old water pipe. I've drilled a couple of holes to where I can tie it to the post. I've put a couple of slices in it with a little reciprocating saw. And I just take the ribbon or the wire, slot it into my little cuts, and I tie it to a small post. These posts are things we find around the property. I like about 1 inch in diameter, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches at the most. We cut the top flat, we cut the bottom at an angle. We'll burn the bottom 18 inches, and then we soak them in a little bit of water with boric acid. That stops the mold, the bugs, the termites, really improves the longevity. Push them, tap them into the ground, tie the insulators to it. I now have a spacer that is electrically isolated all the way around. It works pretty well. The cable can pop out. The cable can also just be popped back in. There's a lot of other methods people use. Sometimes they'll use the same piece of polyethylene pipe sideways. They'll cut like a 3-inch piece. They'll tie the 3-inch piece to a stick, and then they'll run the wire through the middle. And they run sticks alternating left, right, so that when they pull the line taut, it holds all of the pieces away from the sticks. It's great for 1 line. It's not really feasible for 3. And we find the 3 really works. The bottom one is so they don't nose under. The middle one is the one they see, and that will touch their nose, mostly if they're just trying to like go somewhere. And the top one is so they don't just step over it. Having a little bit of different heights really helps out, because they'll dig the ground down in places. They'll push enough dirt to where it's all built up. And that kind of all becomes an issue to where you want a little more or less. These are also adjustable. I can slide my insulator up or down my post as the landscape changes. And the pigs do change it a bit. So I can adjust for that. So let's give you a shot of what happens after 6 months. This is where the pigs have been. And we've had them here for about 6 months. Now we have 2 areas. I have this area, it goes up the hill. And I have this other area, it goes up the hill. And as you can see, that's a water post. But that was the fence line, which has now become a cliff. This tree, well, that tree used to have its roots underground. Get over here a little bit. We get into there. Now, I'm gonna use my magic finger. So that spot right there is about 2.5, 3 foot, and it is dead flat. So this is where we've had Wilby, or Wilbur, Wilbykins. He has many names. These are boar. So he's been in here, and he has pecked that side, flattened an area. Now on this side, he's done the opposite. He's pushed material. It's kind of hard to see, but he's pushed material, and he's also flattened this area and made a little cliff. this is kind of a neatly multi-terraced area now that we can use for something else. It's going to be garden. Specifically what this area is going to be. Now I come up here. This was Mrs. Piggles in the Wiggles area. We're still in the process of deconstructing and cleaning it up. I've still got some of the insulator posts here. And it's good enough to keep a hormonal boar away from an in-heat sow. Now, there's a couple other modifications we've had to do. They'd gone under the fence over there, so we put some stakes. Mildly effective. I ended up doing, I hung little pieces of string off the live wire. It just dangled down, kind of like the icicle Christmas lights. And they would sort of hang down right there in front of the sticks. And that was enough from undermining any further. There's quite a bit of area where they've done that. But we had to stop them going any further. We'd have to move the entire fence line, make a new path for us. There's little paths that go around. So it was good enough to keep them apart, even in their hormonalness. But that's, you can see up in the distance, a bit of the new fence. That is an electric fence. That's what it can do. And this is what pigs can do. So I hope this was useful. If there's questions or specific things, hey, I'd be happy to answer them. I'll catch them in a future video, or I'll try to catch them in the comments when I have a chance. So have a good one. Hope to see you next time. Wilby, I need you to poop off. Poop off. Okay. Okay. All right.